Let's see if I can walk and talk at the same time. So I'm David Keathly. I'm a principal lecturer in computer science and engineering. And for the few of you who know me, know this story, but I kind of took a winding path to academia. So I started out after I graduated college working in military systems, and then I moved into commercial systems, and then I spent about 10 years as an entrepreneur with my own business, and then I decided to join academia. And that's relevant to the story I'm going to tell, at least one of them, because about 2 years after I came to UNT, our department started a new program in computer engineering, and one of the things that we wanted to add to that program was a capstone experience. It was a 2-semester sequence, and at the time the chair thought I was the natural person to teach it since I'd spent almost 20 years in industry, so I understood the process. So he asked me to do that, and the first couple of offerings went pretty straightforward because we had very small groups. We had the new students who were coming into this program, only had 5 or 6 students in capstone, so I could really focus on working them individually. But as the course grew, I started struggling with how do I take something that's non-academic and how do I put it into an academic context, and how do I evaluate students in an academic context. So one of the things that I learned is even our students in engineering who are supposed to be good at math will tell you they're not good at math until the week 13 of the semester. And then suddenly they can compute their grade point to 5 decimal digits of precision, and they can tell you exactly how many points they need to make the grade they want, which is not the attitude I want in a capstone class. But I had already succumbed to that context myself. So before I go any further, I want to give you the 3 points that I want you to get today, because otherwise I might forget. So the first is change the context. If you're looking for a truly unique academic experience, change the context. The second is flip the experience, much like some people talked about flipping the classroom. We'll talk about how that applies in a minute. And then the third, which is the hardest one as an academic to do, and that's release the reins. Give the horse the ability to go where it wants to go, so to speak. So those are the 3 points. I want you to look for the opportunities for those in this story. So I started really struggling with this, and of course the students are feeding that because they want to know, well, exactly how many points is this going to be worth, and exactly what do you expect in this requirement specification or this design document? And of course my traditional answer is, it depends, because every project's different, every client is different, because these capstone projects, they have a client outside the university typically. Sometimes we do some in-house projects too, but they have to work with people who have different sets of expectations. And so, you know, the first lesson I learned for myself first, and then I had to address how to get it to the students, and that is change the context. So what I tried one semester, and I've been doing it ever since, and we've now done about 13 years of these capstone courses, and we've added it to other programs as well, is I walked into class the first day of class, and I told everybody, once class started, I said, welcome to capstone senior design. Now I want everybody to leave your stuff, get up, and leave the room. I want you to walk out. In fact, some years, if the weather was nice, I'd say, meet me in the parking lot. Now, if you know engineering, we're out at Discovery Park, so we're not on main campus. Now, Discovery Park has an interesting history because it used to be a Texas Instruments manufacturing plant, so it was very industrial. And so we walk out, and either they come back in the room or they meet me in the parking lot, and I say, okay, I want you to forget everything you know about the classes you've taken for the last 3 years. Okay? This is not a course, this is a job. And so we're going to do this whole thing as if you're at a job. This is your first job. You have a client. Granted, they're not paying you. You're going to get a grade, but it's a job. So I want you to take it from that context, and then I'm going to also approach it from that context. So when you give presentations about your design, think of me as an investor. I'm not your teacher. I'm an investor. You're trying to convince me to invest in your idea, in your product, in your design. And it made a big difference. Then I had another serendipitous occurrence, and that is I had some students who'd had the course previously come back and go, you know, this turned out to be a much better course than I thought it was, but I didn't realize it until I got out into industry. Because all this stuff you taught us that we were groaning about because we had to write all these documents and do all this stuff, that's exactly what I've been spending the last year of my life doing. So I kind of wish I'd paid more attention and maybe not been as mean to you about it. Okay? So I said, that's good to know. What I'd really like you to do now is go tell that to my students. So I now have about 15 students who on a random rotating basis, sometimes via Skype, so we use technology as well because some of them are in San Francisco and other places, is in the beginning weeks of that first course, that first capstone course, they talk to the students about, here's why this is important. Don't just do it because Keathly said so and there's a grade associated with it. but do it because this is what your job is going to entail. And this is what your employers expect. And coincidentally, most people don't learn this in school. So when you go out there, you're going to really impress your employers that you already know how to do this, and you've already been through this process, and you've made mistakes, and you've learned from them, because most people have to go through that in their first job, as opposed to having already done it before they get here. So I think that's a really worthwhile experience. So flipping the experience. I'm the investor. I'm not the instructor. Changing the context. This is a job, not a course. And then giving them the reins to give them ideas about how to do it. I don't require specific ways they do presentations, things like that. I just have students do YouTube videos for their presentations, or go out and give demonstrations out in the field or in the parking lot and things like that. So they have an opportunity to do it in the way that fits them the most. And I had a couple other stories, but it looks like I'm starting to run out of time, but I'll try one more. Sometimes it also works in the context of an individual student. So I'm not going to give her name, but we had a student that came to our summer camps. We do robotics and mobile app development summer camps in the summers. And we had a student several years ago, homeschool student, very, very timid. She came and she was obviously very, very bright, but literally looked like she was going to have a heart attack every time I spoke to her. And so she came into camp for 2 years, and then we had a program at that time where we gave scholarships to students who came to camp. So she came to UNT in computer science, and again, was still fairly timid, but obviously very, very bright. And so I asked her to be one of our camp counselors. She'd been to camp for 2 years. She knew what we did and gave her that opportunity to come. The first year, she did a good job, but she was the kind of person who would volunteer to like take the robots apart at the end of camp or go run and make sure the lunch got there. She didn't want to have to interact with the students very much. She was very scared to do that. By the second year, she was pretty good at doing that. And so by the third year, in flipping the experience, I started asking her to run the camp, okay, and teach the other students who were my counselors to do the camp. And by the fourth year, and this is that aha moment when you feel really proud that you've helped somebody get past their shortcomings, if you will. It was a particular semester where we were doing a bunch of camps, and during the summer I was also teaching, and I'm an advisor, so I had to go do orientations. And we were doing a camp in Louisville at a middle school and during the summer, and I had to come back to Denton to meet my class, do an orientation, and then go back to camp. And so I told all the counselors, okay, I'm leaving, I'll be back in about 2 to 3 hours. And she boldly walked up to me, looked me straight in the face, and goes, you know, I know you're busy and you're probably tired, so if you don't want to come back this afternoon after that orientation, we got this. So that was an interesting moment for me. And I'll share one more story because the time keeps changing. And this is another informal education story. And no, it's red, that's why. Okay, never mind. So remember, change the context, flip the experience, release the reins.